You know, you don't know how to think. Did you know that? I haven't had this conversation publicly in a very long time, so I'm just here to give a few thoughts. These thoughts are inspired by the Coon pastor who was saying whatever he was saying recently that went viral. And whatever he was saying isn't even as important as a room full of people saying amen to obviously bad theology, right? Which is cultic behavior. And you arrive at cultic behavior because you don't know how to think and or you not have permission to think. But I want to let you know that we's free now and we can think. So we got to learn how to think. The other inspiration for this is recently my nephew shared something in his stories, and I was having to try to educate him on the fact that he didn't realize that what he shared was a part of a socialization practice trying to teach him to not listen to Black women. And I have to teach him how to think the thing through. Think. So here's some thoughts on thinking. Number one, Zan West asked us to ask the question, who does it benefit for me to believe it this way? Okay? It's a good question to ask. If you're thinking a thought and it's gotten to the point where you've thought it to the extent that it is now a belief, who does it benefit for you to believe that thing that way? And as it pertains to, what I was sharing about the Coon pastor and the church full of amens and, even my nephew thinking that this video that really was training him to think that whatever Black women are saying is incredible, which is wild to me because he's my nephew and I'll drag him down the street by his toenails before I let him live into a reality where that is true, right? But thinking that, right, that who does it benefit for you to believe it that way? Who does it benefit for you to believe that, that very violent, obvious, bad theology or ideology? Who does it? Which also thinking the thought through. Do you know that thinking requires more than just something pops into your head and that is the thing? You have a thought and then you need to think it through. Some part of the process of thinking through means who else is thinking this? Where else could this be substantiated? Is there any additional information that would make this credible? Has somebody else been thinking this thought? Meaning somebody else has written about it, somebody else is teaching about it, somebody else is preaching about it, somebody else is thinking, I'm thinking about this in community. I learned this from somewhere, which leads me to citing your sources. Don't be citing your sources. I don't even know. Y'all are like supposedly public scholars and I don't know your mom's name. That's going to always be wild to me. Your mama, your grandma, your auntie, I don't know none of their names. But you just be smart by yourself. I scroll down your timeline. There's no citations in your captions, nothing. You saying profound things, no citations. Citing your thoughts, which leads me to the hierarchy of thinking. You also believe that there is someone potentially more credible than you, which is how you end up in a cult or how you end up believing, things that are, not credible, things that are violent to you, that you can't get to the fullness of your own thought because there's this other thought sitting on top of your thought and that person, you think their thought leader, right? But you haven't even asked any questions about the thought that they have thought into your brain. You got to ask these questions. You got to contextualize. And in the work of decolonizing authority, part of that is saying who authorized you. That isn't to say that you might not be credible. That is to say that part of thinking means that I get to ask the question, where did you get that? That's a good thinker. Where did you get it? The last thing I want to say, again, amongst the many things that I want to say, because this video is much longer than I meant for it to be, but because I haven't even talked about context, like thoughts should be contextualized. A lot of words. But coming into 2025, my ancestors told me to slow down. Be quiet, slow down. They were really giving me information about even thinking the thought through and living with it before I come and be like, hey, I'm going to preach the gospel of this thing. It's why I went from posting on social media so frequently in the past to like, where do I be? I mean, I be in my stories cutting up, but because you got to learn to like, let it breathe, let that thing linger and, marinate a little bit. Okay. So this is important. I want us to do better. I want us to be better thinkers because it will keep us from harm if we can learn how to think a thought through.